If not, then it's in faculty resources. Sorry.
So we shouldn't have to pay for it, it should just be there, or we have to?
I didn't hear you.
So we shouldn't have to pay for it?
Oh, no, it's free.
Okay, cause it like, and even when we looked it up in class last week, it was saying you could buy it.
Everything we looked at was in by
No.
So-
It's supposed to be a student resource through Cengage. That's
I
why.
tried, but it kept saying.
I'll
first
look
buy
at it. I'll look at it and see. Yeah. I'll look at it.
So, Diane, did you say that you did volunteer work, fun work? something
Yes,
like that?
and we did
Yes.
it in crisis, when I did a crisis team,
Yeah.
for our last work. We had to carry the phone on the weekend. So I had to do, for, crisis for the agency.
Yeah. Did that in Blacksburg, I worked for the community mental health agency in the summertime to help them out.
Uh-huh.
Did you find it to be very scary at first?
Yes,
Yes. You called it, number one, you woke up in the middle of the night.
yes.
My first person was suicidal in the middle of the night. So everything, this PowerPoint as I went through was in the training that they, had given us as well. So very good stuff here. And when we're done, we have some role plays, and we're gonna sit back to back and do the role play so you can't see each other, as if you're on the phone. I looked around today, I only have one play phone I use for kids to say things to people, that they can't really say, in person. But I thought if we sit back to back, then you can't see the other person's nonverbal, so it'll be a little bit like it. And I'll tell you more about that as when we get to that point. So, chapter 6, does everybody have their books?
Mhm.
There's a couple of great examples I want to point out of responses, and that's very, very helpful. It's very easy to get stuck in crisis and draw a blank. I don't know, Diane, if you felt like that sometimes, but it is.
It is big,
Not
big
easy.
responsibility.
Big responsibility. Okay. So we'll begin by talking about the case handling on telephone crisis lines. It became big because of the convenience and immediacy, and because it's 24 hours. And now they're seeing that self-help chat rooms are really growing as well, for a lot of reasons. And we'll go through the emotional reasons why this is working as well later. There are time-limited hotlines, national and local ones, and some counselors even, will give their cell phones out. One of the big reasons is anonymity. Say that right. There's a lot of clients that may be shut-ins. They may have trouble with transportation, and so, or they may be embarrassed. A lot of rape victims may feel like they'll be judged, and so they would rather call a crisis line, and have that person not see them. They'll feel more freer to disclose. And control. The client can hang up the phone. So they're more in control. Very cost effective, and they are finding with studies that it can be as effective as traditional modes of therapy. Any questions? It provides access to support. Okay. You don't want to develop a dependency. Your book does a great job of talking about how, and I think I've noticed some examples too of how not to let the person become dependent on you either. And normally they will have a different worker each time, but sometimes if it's a small place, and they call a lot, you will have dependency issues. Availability of others for consultation. When you hang up the phone, you've got the other volunteer right beside you, The array of services, and the LINC stands for the Library and Information Network for the Community. And that's more in the metropolitan areas. But a lot of rural areas are connected into that system as well. Service to large and isolated geographic areas, and your text says that you may have a service of up to 150 miles surrounding the area. Now here's where we begin our strategy. So if you'll note these, so when we role play, it's okay to have notes in front of you while you role play today. Okay. So the very first thing, just like with face-to-face, you want to make that psychological contact with that person. Okay, you're providing support. You don't want to say, what is your problem? Okay, right off the bat. Okay. You want to just, gives them reflect their feelings a lot. That is huge in this work. So reflect their feelings. It helps to have a list of feeling words in front of you. So I hear that you're frustrated. And workers have a list of standard questions to review. And there are certain cases you'll see as we go along that you do want to, you know how you always hear ask open-ended questions? With some people you don't want to do that. So we're going to talk about tonight why not to do that when a person is in crisis. And you want to keep notes on the client. And that's okay, they can't see you taking notes. They won't think you're being rude or not listening, you know. And that's one of the pluses of this. You want to ensure safety and provide support. So you want to ask questions that start with do, have, you know, do you have a family member? You know, do you have a support system? My first suicidal call, he was on campus, and he had a friend that could come over. So we called, he gave me the number, and I called the friend, explained the situation with his permission, and they came over and they stayed with him and made a contract to stay with him. So look at alternatives that you're making plans. Alternatives should be simple and concrete. You can use role play and verbal rehearsal techniques. Definitely want a commitment from them in crisis work, okay? There are certain, I know when the work that I did was like involuntary and voluntary commitment. And so we would have, you know, if they were going to be released, let's say from a hospital setting, then we would have to, you know, have a family member come in, or a caregiver, or a spouse, and they would sign a contract with them that they would call a therapist outside of that setting, you know, by the next day, you know, and then we would do follow-up calls as the crisis worker as well. Errors and fallacies. In crisis work, it's easy to get frustrated, especially if you're new. And I think just even in not crisis work, just in counseling, you know, you feel like you should know everything, and nobody knows everything, okay? The biggest thing to remember is you have support, you can collaborate with other professionals, you will get hit with something. A few of you are in the school system, that you experience something new every year, that you think I've done it all, but then, you know, there's something else that comes up that you're like, oh, no, I haven't, okay? On the phone, if you feel you're being manipulated, you probably are, and we'll talk a little bit about how to recognize those feelings and what to do about it. Because you will have callers that might be angry, you know, or you're not listening to me, you know, and you don't want to get defensive, which is a natural reaction, you know, and come back at them at all. So, and your text does a great job of explaining what to do. Okay. Back to the provided support. Yeah. I skipped one, guys. No, back here I have a few notes I want to go over. With dependent, that's not it either, is it? What is the? No, I wrote dependent, excuse me. Where it says making psychological contact, you want to be careful of your nonverbals, but you also want to pay attention to the client's nonverbals. So tone, pitch. And you can pay attention to that today too, because that can give you some clues when they role play. The speed of their speech. And you definitely want to pay attention to their emotional contact, because that's going to help you. You can sit there and jot notes on their emotional content. Did I say contact? Content. Sorry. Content. Because you want to be able to reflect back with them. Okay? Because you can lose them if they feel like you're not listening. Your open-ended questions for most cases are what, how, when, who, okay? And ensuring safety and providing support. One thing that this doesn't have on here is to also ask, have you had a crisis like this in the past? If so, how did you handle it? Because if they handled it well, you can reach a lot of issues. Might be self-worth, or they might be dependent, and they may not realize, hey, I did handle this before well. You know, what did you do? So that's something to know too. And in providing support, make sure you're non-judgmental, back to those core conditions, caring and empathetic. So paranoid, and I have a few, just a few things jotted here, okay? What I did was I put what feelings most likely that they will express in their emotional content, and then what you want to stress as the crisis worker, okay? So with paranoid, they may be guarded, jealous, okay? Definitely want to stress safety with them. Schizoids are usually restrictive, shy. You want to stress self-esteem. And each case is unique, but this just gives you an overall with most like this. Schizotypal may feel inadequate and insecure. You want to stress reality checks and self-awareness. As you go through your book has a great paragraph on each one of these and gives you more detail. This is just a general. Narcissistic, usually grandiose, self-centered, always right. I think I've known some of these in my family. You want to stress empathy for others, and how their actions affect other people. A lot of times they do not see that. Histrionic, shallow, demanding, ego. You want to stress the ability to survive using resources. Okay. They definitely can be in crisis mode. Obsessive compulsive will have a fixation. With them you stress trust and thought stopping and behavior modification. Bipolar, easiest way to say is the person feels like they're going from superwoman to loser, or superman to loser. So you want to stress slowing down to them, and pacing themselves. Don't disagree with their plans. That was real key. You know, no, you're not going to be the next CEO of, you know,
Yeah.
it's a big company. I don't know. You
Apple.
know, you don't want to. Don't do that with them. Okay. You want to just go along with them. Just don't disagree. Try to slow them down. And if they're in that depressive state, you definitely want to do your suicidal questions with them. A dependent person feels worthless and has abandonment issues usually. With them, you definitely want to stress their strengths. Self-defeating. Self-defeating person usually chooses situations that they will fail. You're going to stress their talents and try to point out their sabotaging behaviors. Avoidant tend to be loners and have a real fear of rejection. So with them, you want to stress social skills and assertiveness training.
Say that one more time for avoidant. Could you say it, please?
Yeah. Tend to be loners and have a fear of rejection. So you want to stress social skills and assertiveness training. And passive aggressive. They'll express anger very covertly, maybe with words or certain behaviors to manipulate others. So with that type, you stress open, assertive behavior. Not aggressive, assertive. And then your borderlines, your text describes as chameleon-like, can display all of the above types. And said to look at chapter 5. So I would suggest looking over chapter 5. That's the toughest one. I would say you would have to consult. I shouldn't overjudge I would have to consult and collaborate with someone else, just from my experience with borderlines. But that just gives you a quick, and if you're, it's different if you're at an agency like the community one I was in. It was very Band-Aid, very quick with what you could do, and usually, just made sure they had a commitment to see someone else the next day. But if you're in a private agency, or in a community setting, and you're the counselor, this is very helpful to them. Okay. Any questions on that? They help a little bit, just to know the general basics. Very important things to remember with the severely disturbed caller. Okay. And this is where I wanted to tell you, I don't have it on the slide, but the feelings. Here's how you're going to know you have a severely disturbed caller. You're going to feel discomfort, anxiety, and it might be disabling. Okay, so you want to be aware of your reactions to the caller. That's a good thing, because then you can be careful that it's not coming out in your voice, you're staying calm. Okay. Their behavior is always purposeful and serves motives that may be conscious or unconscious. And that goes back to the bipolar caller. That's why you don't want to disagree with their plans. Okay. Their behavior is comprehensible and has meaning, even though the language used may not. Their behavior is characteristic and consistent with their personality, even though it's exaggerated. And it's serving a purpose to keep them safe and free of anxiety. They're not very self-aware, especially your bipolars in that manic state. They really think they can go out and build another Disneyland tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Some great ways to handle the severely disturbed caller. You want to slow their emotions down. See what's going on for them right now. These are the ones, if you make a note, you do not want to say, tell me more about what's upsetting you. That's going to get them on a tangent and keep them at the level they're at. You're trying to slow them down and calm them down. Don't share their hallucinations. Don't say, I see the unicorn too. That's, you don't need to be empathetic. You can affirm that they see it, but if they say, don't you see it too? It's okay to say, no. You want to ask when questions rather than why. And you always want to check if they're on their medications or not. And if they can tell you what they are, that's even better. For most places, you should have a physician's desk reference as well. So you can look that up and be aware of the side effects too. You want to keep your expectations realistic. Maintain professional distance. That counter-transference is not uncommon. Use owning statements and definitely seek supervision. Again, it says avoid placating. You want to be empathetic, but not sympathetic. And always, always in crisis work, assess the lethality. Do they have a plan? Do they have access to firearms? How often have they had these thoughts? Is this the first time? They think about this every 30 minutes. Other problem solvers like that, the rappers, they'll call just to talk. They're lonely. Covert callers, it's not really their problem. They're calling for a friend that has that problem.
Yeah.
You will have pranksters or nuisance calls. And silent callers. A lot of people, especially if this is their first crisis, will have trouble sharing. And to me, the book didn't mention this, but to me that could be a cultural thing as well. I mean, especially if I'm on the phone. I mean, let's say they're let's say they're from an Asian culture, and they can tell that I'm a female from the South. I mean, there may be a cultural problem there, and it's okay to I don't know what most agencies do, but it's okay if they would rather talk to someone else. I wouldn't take that personally. But be patient. and let them know, this is where you're gonna be empathetic. You know, I know that, you know, this is gonna be difficult to talk about. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
What happens when you realize it's someone you know? Especially if you're in like a smaller community.
To me, that's an ethical. Dr. Enzor, would you tell me if I'm wrong?
Ask it again, I couldn't
If
hear you.
like a caller is someone you know, you realize it's someone you know. Like especially
If
in
you're
a smaller
uncomfortable,
community.
you pass it to your supervisor, because your supervisor should be able to hear exactly what you're hearing. And then you let your supervisor know that you know this person and you don't want to deal with it. And then whatever the protocol is in that crisis plan, then you would follow that. But if you feel like that you can muddle through it, I understand it. But it makes you uncomfortable when you recognize somebody on the other end and you go to church with them, or it's your banker, or it is just, it's very overwhelming. So my professional suggestion is that you refer to your supervisor. And I'm thinking that, you know, when you go through the training of doing this, they will tell you exactly what to do, depending on what crisis place you're working with.
Great question.
You're in our small agency. I mean, there was just one of us on call on the weekend, so we served, and everybody. I mean, it was a private agency, so all the clients had the on-call person, and we knew. But that did actually happen. There was a church member, and I just muddled through,
Yeah.
but I found out who it was and called my supervisor and said, "This." I mean, I didn't ever identify myself to the person, but they kind of knew already. You know, so they didn't acknowledge it, and I didn't acknowledge it. But then I just called the supervisor to say, I know this person's having this trouble. But I still had to follow protocol, which
Right.
was exactly, and like you said, our agency laid it out.
Yeah.
Blum, 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 blum. This is what you do. Blum, 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 blum. So, I mean, you couldn't ignore it,
No, oh no, yeah,
you know, and there wasn't anybody else to deal with
Right,
it.
you have to
Yeah.
address it.
absolutely.
And if you're caught in a situation like that, then, you know, your protocol has to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't leave you hanging, I'm sure.
No. No.
And then talk to somebody afterwards.
Yeah.
Just to help you debrief, and I'm sure that's in protocol too. It's supposed to be.
Oh, it is, and it's, this one was difficult, yeah.
Good question. The manipulators, we talked a little bit about that before. They're the questions, so just be prepared for that. They'll question your ability, role reversal, and they do have some places in the book with one of these examples. But basically, you know, if they're saying, you know, well, aren't you just a volunteer? You know, you don't even have a degree to help me. You know, they're just they're transferring their anger onto you is what they're doing, okay? And you can say, you know, well, I think that, you know, with the training that we have here, you know, why don't we just give it a shot and see if I can help you? You know, just take kind of a nice, laid-back, more, you know, approach. Okay, but don't react. It's we're not to react in anger back at them and not to take it personally. Okay? If you have a sexually explicit caller, you definitely want to transfer it to someone of the same sex, because that can happen too. Okay? And then you will have callers with legitimate problems too. But I think I personally, I would, you know, just always transfer that, depending on the problem though. And bottom line is, remember to treat all callers respectfully and seriously. And if you feel that you have enough time to transfer, you can't give them the best help, I would pass that on, let your supervisor know as well. That's important too, because that happens. You may have someone with an issue that you have had, or you know, someone in your family or friends that have had. Okay. With problem callers, pose open-ended questions, except with the ones we talked about. You want to set time limits, especially with the rappers. You know, they say usually like 15 to 20 minutes is what the saying abuse, you do not have to be abused on the phone. And they'll have protocol for that in your agency as well. Switch workers if needed, use covert modeling and conditioning. If you have someone that keeps, what they're talking about here is if you have someone that keeps calling you, you can ask them, you can kind of bring it to the here and now and ask them if they can visualize seeking outside help for that problem. Okay? And if they can see how, with having to keep calling the crisis line, you know, which is okay, it's what you're there for, but it's not really solving that problem. Does that make sense? That it's time, you know, to seek it out, outside help. Page 134. In your book had a good example of that. Let's see. And actually on 132, yeah, that whole section and even before that will tell you what to do. The book does a great job of outlining how to use covert modeling. Page 133, I'm sorry, at the bottom, where it says CW. It says, as you're talking, I'm wondering if you recognize your real problem and want help with it. I know this will be pretty difficult to give up, but sometime soon, I'm not sure exactly when, as you reach for the phone, you'll think to call a therapist instead. And this notion that you'll call a therapist and get help will get stronger every day as you think of it. You also start to feel better as you realize the crisis line isn't fulfilling your needs as therapy will. So I'm going to hang up now and let you think about getting help with your real problem. I learned as I read that, I would not have known what to do with someone that just kept calling. I mean, I would recommend, but I love their response there, getting them to visualize. Instead of reaching for the phone and just seeing, talking to a crisis worker, actually visualizing, going beyond that, and then finally realizing that they have a problem that needs further help. Then your text talks about Internet's growing role in crisis intervention. And the reason there's a lot of resistance, there's ethical concerns, there's a lot of confidentiality issues. If you become a counselor on the internet, there's certain software that you have to, I forgot what it's called. Diane, you're the text person. Is it encrypted or, I forgot the tech word.
I don't know. I don't know what
Your text says it. But there is software to purchase to make sure that you, and I think to be ethical, you have to have that software. There's limited training, lack of humanistic values. A lot of people feel like you're losing something with not seeing the verbals and not being face-to-face. And there's a lot of consumers willing, you know, to do this now, the big market. And your text talks about digital native or just versus digital settler. I'm a digital settler. Some of you younger ones are probably a digital native, and that's where you grew up with technology, you have access to it, you're very comfortable. And then you have the digital settlers who did not grow up with it. You know, in typing class we had the manual, believe it or not, when I was in high school. And then, so you want to be, and this is important too, if you're going to give any kind of assessment, let's say you go into career counseling, or you do some type of, there's a lot of assessments now, you know, that you can do online. You want to make sure your clients are okay with that, and they're comfortable. You don't want to make them uncomfortable. And then the appeal of it is the feedback is quicker, might be more often. Disinhibition, we talked about that earlier. You know, they may feel like they're not being judged. They may open up more quickly without having to see someone face to face. And a little bit more of your problems, and that's in your test as well. Okay. And with this, it might get too informal with the text talk too. Etiquette, okay. There's civil and appropriate rules of discourse. You're going to have some typos, but not many. You have to consider your emoticons. You don't want to throw out acronyms that the client may not know. You don't want to do all caps in reply to them. You want to be intentional in responding, not just sit there, you know, informally chatting with them. Just as if you plan as if They're your face-to-face client. And it talks about virtual reality and treating certain conditions as well. But you definitely, if that's the field you want to go in, to be ethical must get training as well. A lot of things to consider. Definitely more research is needed, more caller ID. Talks about keeping caller logs, the liability in your text. You need to read more about that in your text. Any questions? That was the PowerPoint on chapter 6, but it goes way more in depth. That was just a lot of highlights. Any questions? Do we want to take a break before the role play?
Go ahead and do the role play.
Do the role play?
And then we'll take a
Okay,
break.
and then we'll take a break.
That way it's fresh in their minds, so.
Okay. These are good too. Okay, so each person will get a role. Do not tell your partner which role you're playing, okay? At the end of about 5 minutes, I want you to stop and let your partner know what they're doing to help you, to stabilize you, and what is not working for you, okay? So hopefully we're all comfortable when we can do that, because you will get these kind of clients in private practice or on the phone. So this is a nice, safe setting to be able to practice and say, you know, when you call me crazy, that made me feel, you know, so, okay. So it's okay to do that, and it's good for us to be comfortable, because we'll be doing more role plays too. Okay, we're all professionals and we can all help each other, all right? So give your partner feedback, watch the clock about 5 minutes, you know, read your role, get into your role, give them feedback, okay? Then keep going, and then when we stop, then you can tell your partner what your role is and how they stabilize you, okay? Any questions? Okay, so just partner up with someone. Do we have an even number of people here?
I'll partner up.
You'll partner up here? Okay, good. So I'm gonna give you each different roles. It has your role, and it tells you what to do too. It doesn't just say, hey, you're a warlord. Okay? Don't tell your partner, don't let them see your role. You're gonna try to guess what they are. That's a good thing that you made. Nothing to do with anything, it was just, that's harder than this one. This one's too easy. Yeah, nothing personal. That's funny.
I've been following you around with the camera a little bit, so.
So after you're comfortable, just go ahead and read it, you know, think about it for a second, digest it, and then you just begin whenever you want to, but make sure you sit back to back, so they do not see your nonverbals.
I've had to flip it around to get people in because we're pushing the world to see, but I think we'll get something.
Okay, I need clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, God.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I actually,
Yeah.
I don't think she can.
okay, and then,
Oh, I did.
oh, okay,
What about it?
Yeah, you let them know.
As the,
Yes,
as
yes.
the client.
Yeah, and I did need to clarify that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, under your role, it's okay where it says your role, and this says like you call 4 times a day, you wanna let them know that, hey, you know, that you call 4 times a day, just don't let them know what your
What the
diagnosis
problem
is, what the problem is.
Okay.
You just say, look, this is the 4th time I've called, and then start acting out your role. Yeah.
Dr. Ensor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having to Google what she's I'm Googling what kind of behaviors with this person.
Yeah,
I'm trying to record while I. She didn't give me one either. There you go. Get online. Camera. Here we go, girls.
Oh, are you talking about because I'm good online?
No, I don't know. No. I'm just trying to keep together.
Okay.
And you, yes, that's what you want.
Well, none of my
Yes,
papers
it's
come
okay.
in, but
The
reception.
information given to council, but don't tell them that.
She-
And then,
Okay, yeah, you look into the.
Dr. Stray, you didn't give me one. I don't think.
and
You
then
did.
you're gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't know what to. I don't know what to do. You didn't get, I don't think you gave me one, did you? Oh, I've got
To work with, Teresa. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. I think it's a great way to let you know what they're, this is what your clients are gonna be going through.
Yeah.
I can read mine.
Scary.
It is. That's why I'm saying this is a safe, good place to practice this. And this, you don't know when you pick up your phone when you're a crisis worker.
Yeah.
You don't have all this
What you're gonna
information in
do.
front of you. Absolutely.
Okay, so you're going first.
I'm looking at this thing, should have looked at it.
And remember, just somewhere through, stop in the middle and just let them know what they're doing to help you and what is not helping you.
I'm the counselor first.
Hold on, I gotta.
Hello, ready for calling crisis line?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, pause. I'm sorry. Is that directly on me? Is it going?
Diane, this is directly on her.
Hello, but.
We're going directly on.
Put it on those.
Yes.
Getting.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah,
look
we'll put it on
through.
now.
I don't.
I mean, it was like
Yes.
right in my face. I don't want to, it was only a few minutes. 4 times already. Okay, hello, thank you for calling crisis line. How can I help you?
That would be nice, I would like that.
For some other called you, but I got a call. Ma'am?
Well, I'm just, you know, irritated because I can't get everybody to help.
What's the client?
And I
Wow, we're going back to back?
don't sound like
Okay.
they really, you know,
Ding, ding,
really
ding.
care because you asked.
I really do.
On the wedding integration.
So maybe you're at the casino.
Hi,
Just happened.
just a born loser. I'm calling. I'm just so sick of my life, and I really feel like I want to jump out the window tonight. And nothing I do works, and I'm just sick of myself. Everything I do is a failure. I just started a restaurant job, dropped all the coffee on somebody and got fired, and I don't have any money, and I'm just sick of myself. I've got a bunch of pills here that they gave me for anxiety, and I'm getting ready to take them.
I understand, ma'am. Is
And
there
if I, you know what, if I didn't have any luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. I just have bad luck.
do you see them all? Do you have immediate physical danger?
I've tried counselors, and nothing has helped me, and I'm tired of counselors. They don't really seem to help me. I'm just sick of them, and I'm just calling you because you're the last stop on my road. I just want to end all this mess because I just have no luck at all in my life. Do you think there's anything else I can do, because I'm just sick to death of trying everything every day?
After 5 minutes, just tell her what she's doing to help you, and then what is not helping you at all, and then keep going at the end, we'll tell her, at the end.
It's okay, that's all right.
I'm the one, okay? You're not supposed to be making those, you're supposed to.
Yeah, I'm by myself. Yeah.
There's a reason you're feeling that way.
My sister's across town, but,
Where are the kids gonna come from? I'm worried about the mom. Which one's your immediate right now fix?
Well, let me just say this, I'm not supposed to call her purposes, I was changing. Okay, well, I just wanna say that,
Has it been 5 minutes?
everything that I have seen a lot of counselors, and everything the counselors told me, I tried.
Is there anything
But,
that you find your boundaries stop doing?
I really do wanna get better, so I'm trying to come up with some more ideas of how to do better in my life.
Okay, let's stop at this point, just tell the person what's helping you, what's not helping you, and then go for a few more minutes, and then you can stop and tell them what you were, and then switch.
Do we
But-
have a conversation as I'm critiquing now, or do I just do it
No.
as a client?
Good.
Just do it, you can just do it as a client.
Okay.
Yeah, just do it as a client, just tell them how they're helping you.
Okay. I told you that.
Well, you're helping me.
At first, I thought you were because you were just listening a long time.
So strength and what did not, was not.
You did good.
You didn't know what to talk about.
if somebody had told me, you know, if they hadn't given me this much time, you give me, I probably would have said, are you still there? But you're doing good, okay. So now what we do?
Now I get to tell her?
Yeah,
I told you
then you can go ahead and share what it was and then switch.
Nothing to work out, love, money, health, I could have probably given you more time. I tried to drop it.
There was a boss, anyway,
But on the other hand,
in my life,
it was fine. I
I
can't read everything in my classes, so you can talk about, you know, it's all
like, yesterday, I saw my neighbor with the leaves.
No, you sure
And I
do.
called them my house.
Yeah. Okay, so we start now, we switch. Okay. All right, so you this is the crisis center, ABC crisis center. May I help you tonight? How can I help you?
We ended up going across. And then 3 weeks ago,
Oh, okay, well, I'm glad you called.
my
I needed to talk to someone because I discovered this technique that will make you very rich in things.
Oh,
I've been studying and reading.
I'm just trying to look at my list. I think I'm on therapy and my process once a day.
You ask
I
people,
just don't know what's on it.
you what? Whack 'em?
yes, and pretty through cold water, behavior.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, that sounds like that's an interesting process. You're calling in tonight are you to talk about this thing you've learned? Is that your reason for calling
I've
tonight?
heard your numbers and thinking well. Maybe too well.
Basically what it is you stop them from doing bad things, right? You teach your client to stop them.
Oh, wow. That sounds like it's a bit extreme of behavior, but I understand what you're saying, and I can see that it's something you're really excited about. Do you see a counselor of any sort? Is that the reason you called the crisis counseling line? Do you normally see a counselor?
right there.
No.
I've done it, but I know that I'm correctly, I still have to do it over and over again, so I'm always worried.
You've been what?
Like
You've been self-diagnosed, and what did your self-diagnosis come up with? You're an average person? Yeah. Okay, well, right. Is there anything that's bothering you tonight, or worrying you? You sound excited.
Even, like when
Are you feeling good about life, or are there any problems in your life that you're concerned about?
people will ask me something and then I start reading out.
That's what it is. It's just a fraud. So
You're a fraud? You mean, what do you mean by that? That you're a fraud?
I'm a failure.
You're
I'm having to study on my own. Do other things seems to not work.
I'm sure that there's many things that you do well. I'm interested in what you're saying about feeling as
I don't know, it's
a
not
fraud.
really bad lately.
Are you just feeling as though you are just stressed over this, or?
Probably within like the last 6 months, and I keep having these really vivid dreams where I tap my mother with a spatula. And it's awful.
Let me ask you not to take anything to hurt yourself at this point. Let's talk about that a little bit. Can I ask you to deep breathe? Is there anybody with you now? Is there somebody here? Because I'm going to ask you not to hurt yourself, and let's work together on trying to make things better.
Maybe not.
Is there nobody there that can help you? Do you have a relative or anybody safe, nearby to help you?
Everyone lives.
Is there a way that we can get you some, I wonder if we could call 911 and get you to the hospital, because it is serious what you're talking about as far as hurting yourself. And that's not, I don't want that to happen. And I think that may be the reason you called, is maybe you don't want that to happen as well.
Yeah, I used to try to pinch myself to hurt myself out.
Ice cream after we catch
It was to do your
It was, the
Gosh, life is tough, but there's many, many things that we can do. Let's work together, and I'm going to keep you on the line and see if we can get some medical help to you. I'm going to ask you to promise that you aren't going to take those pills in the next few minutes until I can get some help to you. Just a few minutes, just a few minutes. I'm here with you and I'm going to stay on the line with you. And I'm going to get someone to come and help you and be there with you. And then we'll figure out how to work on this together. Thank you. You're going to do that? Very good. That's excellent. Okay. I'm giving the
If you want to
hospital on its way.
stop, if you want to stop here, and please let them know your type and what helped you, and what did not help you at all.
But that's interesting.
I was like, what?
I was thinking, what is it? Aromatherapy? I'm not a professional. I don't have a degree other than asking what you do. Like, there's some sort of plans to become very agitated. Oh, yeah, nobody can. Your fraud, you That's a good one. Good. I was like, you scared me. You're like, instead of have tablets, I was like, it was scary because you switched on me there, girl. I thought you were just, first I thought you were chronic, then I thought you were like bipolar and grandiose, and you were probably all of that. And then you were doing it at 75, I was like, well, then this gets easier now. Now I know exactly what to do. Get some hospital people to use.
If you want to think about this.
But I had a great, actually, I had one guy that threatened to kill me, and I've never had that in practice in 20 years. When I was at diagnosed with cancer, and he had gone to he had been killed, and he was bipolar, and he was using drugs. We had actually called police, and somebody responded, we have actually pressed charges into that during the street court. I mean, in all of the child protection, everything I've done, I've never had this. And he's so psychotic. I mean, he is such schizoid, grandiose. He is borderline. He has everything. Oh yeah. He says it is crazy. And talking about the stress, Christina, I had so much stress. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 55. I had so much stress on that call. It was weird. I mean, it was very stressful. To deal with. Yeah.
You did do good.
I'm doing the give me 5 minutes or whatever, so it's horrible. Okay. Let me ask you a few questions and then we'll kind of talk about what it was like for you. Were you able to make psychological contact right off the bat? How do you feel you did with this making psychological contact? And if you want to look at the text with me, start on page 122.
I think we both forgot that.
Yeah, and the only reason we're going through that, yeah, is just to be aware, and that's why I wanted you to share, okay, what did you do to help me, what wasn't so helpful? So that's just like as in face-to-face, you want to make have that alliance of rapport.
Well, I did.
Yes, thank you. Were you able to define the problem? Was anybody able to define the problem?
As we got, some more information.
We only took 10 minutes on this, I mean, so, but.
Yeah, 2022. Yeah,
I mean,
we were,
it sounded as I walked around like everybody was getting right to what the problem was.
I think after we had to investigate mine a little bit, because I was confused at first. I didn't know she was a jokester or bipolar, but then she broke in and got it.
Yeah. So we have the making contact, defining the problem. And then were you able to establish what their supports were or make sure they were safe? Tried. Yeah. And that's the basis of crisis counseling. You know, making that rapport, make sure you really get to what the problem is.
We had a question arise. So, I did assure with her while she was panicking that the mob was going to kill her, I said, ma'am, do you see the mob? Are they there right now? And she said, I don't know, I'm behind the machine and I'm not going to look. I said, ma'am, is there any way you could step out? Because I was trying to think if you could get her to realize the mob's not there. But then we questioned, what if really, not the mob, but what if she was like, yes, they're right outside the door with a gun? In this situation, do you say, ma'am, could you tell me where you are and hold the line and you're getting help over there? Or do you say, I need you to hang up and dial 911?
No, don't have that.
I know you don't do
break
that,
contact.
but I do
Yes,
that.
but you're thinking along the right tracks. You definitely want to get your supervisor on the line. They're most likely going to call 911. There's protocols for situations like that.
So you just keep the person on the
Keep
line
them on
and
the
can you
line.
tell me where
Right,
you
because
are?
if you hang up, that was her safety.
Oh, yeah. I knew that was wrong when I was.
Yes,
when
but
I was sitting, but-
all questions are good to ask. And when you're confronted with that on the phone, you don't know that's what you're gonna get.
That's right.
Your mind goes blank. It does.
An experience I had as a high school counselor is, this young boy had been in our school, and you could tell that he kind of beat his own drum, kind of, you know, with the hair, and he was teased a lot. And he called me one morning, I was at school, he calls and he says, Dr. Enzor, I have taken an overdose of pills. Well, I'm just sitting there on the phone going, well, what did you take? He said, I don't know, I think it was antihistamines. And I said, where are you? He said, I'm at home. And I said, okay. And it happened, we had a new phone line put in. And the phone line, you were supposed to be able to hit a buzzer and the secretary would come. Kept hitting that thing, wouldn't do a thing. And so I had the phone and I had to wheel out with the phone to get the secretary, and I started writing notes to this. She came, started writing notes, and so I was talking with him and I said, well, tell me what's going on. He says, well, really all I want to do is go to sleep. And I said, no, you can't go to sleep. I need to keep you on the line, and we're just going to talk through this, because he wanted to die. And we talked about, you know, what his future held for him and how important he was to us. And so while the secretary was calling poison control about the antihistamine, another counselor came. She was trying to locate the mother. And of course on the Q folders, when she called that number, it had been disconnected. So couldn't find mom. So I told him that I was going to have to call 911. And he says, but I'm going to hang up. And I said, well, no, I want you to stay on the line with me. He said, but Dr. Enzor, I got to pee. And I said, are you on a mobile or are you on a line phone? He said, it's a line phone. I said, well, will it stretch all the way? He said, yes. I said, well, take me into the bathroom with you and we'll just continue to talk. And we did. As he took care of business, we continued to talk. And so he didn't want me to call the police, and I said, but I need to. Ask him about his address. He said, well, I don't live there anymore. I said, where do you live? He said, I don't want to give you my address. And so I had to keep talking with him and reassuring him that we cared about him and we needed to get him some help. And so he finally gave me the address, sent the other counselor to call 911, and I said, I told him what I wanted him to do, that while we were talking, you'll hear the ambulance. I said, I'm sending an ambulance, which put him a little more at ease. And I said, you'll hear the ambulance. And I said, when they come to the door, then you can hang up. And so I heard the sirens in the background, and I heard the EMTs come in, and there was a police officer there. The child actually gave the phone to the police officer. And so we connected with that, and I said, do you know where he's going? And he told us what hospital he was going to, and this and that, and this and that. And so I hung up. Well, your knees feel like jello, or at least that's what mine felt like. And I was looking at the other counselor, and I said, I know there's something that we're forgetting. We're not doing something that we're supposed to do. And of course, we remembered it was to try to get a hold of the mother. Well, she'd already been through the Q folder, and there was a phone number for a job that she used to have. We called where she used to work, and they said, she doesn't work here anymore, but she works at this place now. So we got that number, finally called her, and this is, I feel like that I learned from this mistake, because when she got on the phone, I told her who I was, and I told her that I had just talked to her son, and that he had taken an overdose of pills, and he was on his way to such and such a hospital. And she's going, oh my God, oh my God. And I said, just let us know how he is. She flew into me like a wasp. How in the hell do you think I'm gonna take the time to call you people over there and tell you how my son's doing? How can you blah? And I said, you know what, I understand. And I said, you know, I hope everything goes well. And he hung up. And I couldn't catch my breath. It didn't register with me that I was asking her to do something that maybe she truly didn't have enough, you know, sense about her to do, or she was so angry about what had happened to her son, she was projecting it onto me. And so, after that, I really didn't ask anybody to do anything for us, but what can I do for you? Is there something I can do for you? So you learn from those things. And they did pump his stomach, he did come back to school, got himself together, joined the Navy, and as far as I know, he's been doing okay. But believe it or not, he called me first thing that morning, which was about 8 o'clock. That ordeal was not over with until 4 that afternoon. And sitting in my office, you don't realize the time it takes. And, you know, excuse me, I'm looking at the clock at 2 o'clock and going, where did it go? And it was at 2 o'clock when I said, I know we've got to do something. We've left something out, and it was making sure that we made contact with the mom. And then after we did that, I'm looking at the other counselor, because, you know, until you go through it, you don't know what to do. And your first go-round, you're just running on adrenaline. And you're saying to yourself, well, what do I do now? And you're looking at the other person, what do we do now? And I'm looking at her and I said, isn't there something else we're supposed to do? Because we got him to the hospital, we talked to the mother. She says, I think we're supposed to take care of ourselves. Like debriefing or something. Yeah. And so we had somebody else come in, it was another counselor. And we just experienced the whole thing. Starting from the phone call until we hung up the phone from the mother. And so it just, you know, it took all day. It took all day long. But the fear, you know, when you feel the fear, when it's over.
Afterward.
Because when I was on the phone with this kid, all I could think of was, I need to make sure he stays awake. Because he wanted to lay down, he wanted to go to sleep, he wanted to hang up, he didn't want me to do this, he didn't want me to. So you're constantly thinking about what you can say to get him to stay on the phone, to get him to stay awake. You know, you need to pace, and like Dr. Strayer says, you do not lose connection with that person. And if it meant he had to take me to the bathroom, I wouldn't have gone anywhere that he could take that phone. But while you're doing that, it's almost like you've clicked